I want to speak directly to the leaders in the room. Okay. I'm not here to entertain. I am here to interrupt, to disrupt a pattern that's been keeping powerful people like yourself in quiet burnout. Now, I had to make my notes for this one, y'all, because this one I could personally attest to. I can attest to all of them, but this one has shown up so potently in my life. Okay, so this is for the ones who have been conditioned or trained to lead through performance, to lead through pressure and precision. And it's pretty much because you've been known to be, or you again have just been conditioned to be the go-to. You are the one who gets it all done. You're the one who holds it all. And as always, I have to ask this question. Who's holding you? Who's holding you? Maybe you're managing teams, maybe you are running departments, or maybe you are a solopreneur who's building the foundation, right, of something sacred to you, building the foundation so that eventually you can grow to manage teams and run departments. However, again, you're doing this all by yourself. And no matter if you are in the corporate world, if you're an entrepreneur, you are the leader of a community organization or a church ministry, whatever, chances are you have internalized in some way, shape, fashion, or form. You've internalized this version of pressure to always deliver, to always know the answer, to always be available, to lead with power, even when you feel empty. Okay. And here's the truth that no one really talks about. That energy follows you everywhere you go. It follows you in your relationships, in your home, just everywhere. And in this episode, we're not just going to talk about how to lead better at work. We're talking about, or at work, in your business, whatever, we're talking about how to lead better in life overall. Okay. Because leadership isn't about a title. I'm going to say that again. Leadership is not about a title. It's about your energy. It's about your presence. It's about your ability to lead from clarity, from being grounded, from being whole. Just your ability to be, right? Clear, grounded, and whole, no matter what room you're in. And again, you don't have to carry some sort of corporate title to carry an executive energy. And if y'all can't tell by now, this is highly inspired by the corporate executive visionary archetype. Okay. And you don't have to wear this physical crown to know that you are a steward of your queendom, of your kingdom. Okay. This class isn't about performance. Again, this is about presence. And again, it's not so much about corporate leadership, but being a steward, okay, in your queendom, in your kingdom, whatever that looks like for you. And so, again, no matter if you're leading a team, a business, a household, or a community, if you are called to have high level impact in what you do, then you are also called to have high level wellness. I want to say this again. No matter if you're leading a business, a team, a community, or a household, if you are called to have high level impact, you are called to have high level wellness. And I have to share this personal story, y'all. I knew I had to work on my executive archetypal energy when it came time to scale one of my organizations, one of my businesses. Now, as a catalyst, it's in the name. I'm great at starting things. I'm great at getting things going, right? However, I was still operating as if I could hold it all. And there was a lot of resistance. There was a lot of stagnation. There was a lot of, blockages along the way of scaling my business. And this is where I had to realize that it can't just be me. This is the part of leadership that became very uncomfortable because I had to let go of this very comfortable space, even though it was overwhelming, even though it was exhausting. I had to let go of doing it all myself, right? And so now I'm in the space of understanding, or not even understanding, experiencing what real support looks like. In the space of really knowing the journey, the becoming of bringing in real support, whether that's freelancers, and if you have a corporation, if you have a business, fractional executives, which is like this short term journey of holding this high level position, right? And again, no matter if it's, again, the fractional support, the freelancers, or just an overall aligned team, that was needed very much so that I could lead from clarity and not control. All right. And we'll talk a little bit about how that may be a result of a trauma response. It may be a trauma response, right? So I want to get into what is executive energy exactly, because it's more of a frequency, not just a function. Again, we're talking about presence. We're talking about energy. We're not talking about titles, because anyone could carry a title, but they don't hold the frequency. They don't hold the energy. They don't execute, or they're not that in their being, right? So executive energy is the power to decide. It is the power to direct. It is the power to deliver. All right. It is a energy of structure, of systems, of outcome, and of operation. I want to say this again. Executive energy is the power to decide, direct, and deliver. Okay. Direct, delegate. It is also the energy of structure. And I will say this, many of us, especially if you're also creative, we cringe at structure, but structure is a beautiful thing. Okay. While still honoring the freedom and creativity, structure is really a beautiful thing. So again, it's the energy of structure. It's the energy of systems. It's the energy of outcomes and operations. And it's really what keeps your organization, your vision, your goal, your company, whatever it is that you're building, it keeps it moving. It keeps it afloat. It keeps the vision alive, aka sustainable. Okay. And it's very valuable. There's no doubt about that. All right. But I will say, if you're not intentional, executive energy becomes burnout disguised as discipline. I want to say that again. If you are not intentional, your executive energy becomes burnout disguised as discipline. Okay. And it looks strong on the outside, very strong on the outside, but on the inside, it's exhausting. And we want to change that. All right. So how to know if you are this corporate executive visionary archetype? Now, number one, you should have taken the test. Okay. But if not, it's all right. The link is in the description. And again, keeping in mind, all of us have all archetypal energies in us. It's just about which one is showing up in the season the strongest, right? So checking in with yourself. If you can naturally think in terms of systems and structure. So for instance, there's some of us who cannot, it is impossible for us to walk into a messy process without seeing how to fix it, without seeing how to automate it or optimize it. Okay. Your brain is naturally you are naturally wired to organize chaos into categories. Okay. Even conversations, right? Have you ever talked with someone and their conversation is just everywhere, and then you are compartmentalizing to kind of help them get on track of what they're trying to say? Yeah. Okay. You're good at thinking in systems and structures. And I want to be clear, this energy again is just not on the job. It's not just in the corporation. It's not just in your business. It is in life, period. All right. Another sign is you're the go-to person in your business, in your family, or in your community. You are the one that people call when they're overwhelmed, when something breaks or breaks down, when certain decisions need to be made, and you are the voice of reason, you are the voice of clarity. And it's almost like your energy, who you are, what you bring to the table, your support becomes this default system for everyone else, right? Just, hey, if I don't know, let's default to this person, right? Another one, and this is something that I definitely resonated with a lot, and again, some of it could also be a bit of a trauma response, is that you are more comfortable giving direction than you are receiving help. I want to say that again. You are more comfortable giving direction than you are receiving help. And this one goes deep. Again, sometimes it's not pride, y'all. It's a trauma response. But being in charge became a form of control. And because this became a thing for some of us, because letting others help felt unsafe. Opening the space for others to help automatically triggers this experience of unreliability. And, the ability to let others help in our mind almost always leads to disappointment. All right. So we definitely want to explore that. And another thing about this executive energy, and I'm not saying that this is a healthy response, and I hope y'all just didn't hear my stomach growl, but you keep going even when your body says stop. So again, I'm recording this video. My body is like, wait, I'm hungry. I acknowledge you, and I will feed you as soon as I'm done. So many of us have been conditioned to outperform our pain. And when we outperform our pain, a lot of us has been celebrated for it. So we start to take on this notion that, oh, this is normal. This is what I should do. But there's a difference between endurance versus avoidance. All right. So again, I want to say that again. There's a difference between endurance and then avoidance. And this archetype really carries a lot of weight. And most of the time, you're not just holding it at work. Again, this shows up in other areas in life. You're carrying it at home, in your partnerships, in your parenting, in your friendships. And it all exists in this inner world of yours that nobody else sees. And so when this energy isn't regulated or supported, fam, it becomes a spiritual fragmentation. It really does. When you're on all the time, but you're never fully present. You're just showing up just to show up. And so I have to tell this, right? There's one moment that humbled me in this archetype, was again realizing my businesses, my organizations cannot grow if I'm the only one making decisions. Okay. I had to trust myself to trust that I'm making the right decision, inviting other people to execute this vision with me. All right. And the same is true for one of my clients. This was one of my international clients. I watched her go from a partnership to solopreneurship, right? And there was a lot of things as to why the partnership ended up not remaining as such, and then going to the solopreneurship, and then solopreneurship to building a team that was needed to help her expand across international water. So there's one aspect of being an international company based in the US, but it's a whole other thing when you are an international company and you actually expand across the waters. Okay, so that shift didn't just happen because she worked harder. It happened because she finally trusted herself enough to let others help her carry the vision. All right. So this is very important to distinguish, everyone. So I want you to take a moment and ask yourself these 3 questions. Where in your life are you over identifying with being the strong one? Just think about that for a second. The other question is, where are you choosing to control when really you're craving support. And then the last one is, who do you need to become in order to delegate with trust, not fear? I asked myself those questions, and yeah, it was a harsh reality. As far as how I was operating, but it was also beautiful at the same time because it was an eye opener, it was a lesson learner, and it allowed me to open my mind up to possibilities and remember the universe is mental, which then started attracting, but more importantly, I'm aligning right with those who are just as excited as I am to carry the vision. So let's talk a little bit about embodied leadership and how it starts, okay? Which is, as always, it starts with ourselves, within our inner self. It starts at home before we try to go onto any corporation, build any business, any community organization, whatever, knowing how this embodied leadership really starts at home. And this is really rich, right? It's really rich, it's raw, it's grounded. This is a realization that is really important for us to walk in. And so the question I have in this segment is, what happens when you stop performing and just exist? Have you ever asked yourself that? I was like, Sharita, Riziki, whichever one I felt like that day, what would happen when I stop performing and I just start existing, aka just start being, right? And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I asked myself that question. And the truth is, I had to break down what exists means. And I don't mean just checking out. I mean, you don't have to try. You don't have to prove. You just are, because you're the embodiment of. Okay, I want to say that again. Existing does not mean checking out. It means being in a space where you don't have to try, you don't have to prove, you just are. You're just existing, and you're that embodiment. There's no extra effort to be, because you just are. And in that moment, you realize that you're becoming, that you've become, and you're already approved, ordained by the divine, by your higher calling, right? So there's nothing really extra to do. And the real test of leadership, the real test is not so much when everyone's watching. It's how you treat yourself when no one is. Because when you are able to distinguish how you act because people are watching versus how you treat yourself when no one is, this is when you get to see where you're performing and where you're really being authentic leadership. So when we talk about authentic leadership, we're also talking about embodied leadership. And what does that look like? Again, it's not about performance, it's about presence. And the moment, it's also about checking in again with your body before making decisions. And I want to get deep on that, because to some of us, some of that phrase may feel a little foreign. It's like, what do you mean check into your body? Well, I mean, how do I check in my body? That means asking yourself when you're going through your workday, when you're going through tasks, asking yourself, well, what do I feel right now? And I want to make a distinction between feelings and like this intuitive inner knowing, because feelings aren't always facts, right? But there is a sense of knowing that your body starts to feel, or that your body starts to become aware of, okay? And again, in other videos, we'll talk about that distinction. So asking, what do you feel right now in your body? Is it tension? Is it anxiety? What are you feeling right now? And you're noticing, okay, if you're feeling anxiety, if you're feeling tension, notice, where is it? Okay. Where is it in your body? Is it in your chest? Is it in your stomach? Is it in your head? Where is there tightness? Where is there tension? And also, where is there flow? Okay. And then breathing, y'all, we talked about this before. The first thing you lose when your airway is blocked is not your heartbeat, it's your consciousness, right? So breathing into the answer before responding. Take a breath before responding, okay? You don't have to answer when people want you to answer, because you can answer when people want you to answer and then have to retract your answer because you answered from a space of inauthenticity. When you take a moment to just breathe and check in with yourself, it may come a little slower, but guess what? It's going to be the most accurate, authentic answer, okay? And so because we're so busy performing, many of us, but because we're so focused on the task at hand, our body does actually speak to us, but we're too busy performing to hear it. Okay. So again, for future reference, definitely check out my Qigong for Visionaries playlist. Okay. Because, definitely that practice helps you tap into your body. And as leaders and visionaries, again, we have to get into our wellness. All right. So real quick, I want to kind of backtrack into this breath, to this pause, honoring the pause and knowing that, honoring the pause is a form of embodied leadership, even when your calendar says go. Excuse me. Oh, you see how my body responded to that? Okay. So again, embodied leadership looks like pausing. And maybe I needed to pause, right? Even when the calendar says go. And FOMO is a real thing. Okay. Fear of missing out is a real thing. And the urge to keep hustling might whisper to you. The urge to keep going might listen to you, might whisper to you. And it may say, if you rest, you may fall behind. If you rest, this may fall through the cracks. If you rest, things will stop moving. No, because even in universal laws, when there's no movement, when there's rest, when there's pause, there's still movement. When it looks like nothing is being done, something is still being done. And nothing divine, nothing ordained for you in your life will ever pass you by while you are taking care of the very thing that is here to execute the mission, which is your body, your temple. Okay? I promise you it won't. So I want to talk about some rituals at home. Okay? Some things that you can get into that will that will spill over into your work. And I want to say this too. As I'm doing this video and I was speaking, I was feeling myself getting like, going. But you see, my body started to burp. I started to hiccup. And it was like, girl, slow down talking. And when I slow down talking, I'm not experiencing any of that. You see, it's a beautiful thing. So rituals at home, or practices, certain people don't like the word ritual. I'm being mindful. Practices at home is just as important as your practices in the boardroom. They're just as sacred. All right. So, for instance, if your morning feels a little chaotic, if your nervous system is fried before you even check your first email, that is not leadership, my friend. That is survival. I want to say that again. If you wake up and your morning is already feeling chaotic, if your nervous system is fried before you check the first email, that is not leadership. It is survival. All right. So one of the things that I had to incorporate to reclaim my mornings after being conditioned for years, just get up, rush into the thing, rush into work mode. I got to get it done. No. These practices are simple, but they are sacred to me. So the first thing I do as soon as I wake up, I take my breaths and I thank my creator, my whole spiritual team. And I have a team. Okay. I thank my whole spiritual team. Thank you for another day, right? Thank you for allowing me to be who I am. Whatever it is that I want to say, I thank my spiritual team. And then I declare out loud the kind of day that I want to have, because no one controls my day but me. Now, does life? Absolutely. But how I respond to life is all me, right? So I declare out loud the kind of day that I'm going to have. And I really get into a space of setting the tone from inside out. Now, this could be my Qigong, this could be my Kriya Yoga, this could be my meditation, whatever practices allow me to align and really connect with myself on the inside before I go and be. I was about to say perform, but before I go be out in the world, right? Before I execute my embodied, authentic leadership. And so, one of the rituals or practices that keep me grounded now, no matter what I'm managing, is reminding myself, because remember, I talked about claiming my day, declaring what I want to happen throughout my day, and life does life. And so when life's in a way that doesn't feel so good to me, I remember that life is not happening to me, it is happening for me. So I ask, what is the lesson here? Okay, this happened, it doesn't feel good. Matter of fact, it's probably made me a little upset. But what is the lesson here? What part of me is being developed in this moment? What part of me needs to be developed in this moment? And what version of myself is rising through this? Right? Because all of these things that don't feel good is, again, a lesson or opportunity for us to exercise that part of ourselves that is going to be needed in my next level of leadership. I want to say this again. Everything I experience is preparing me for my next level of leadership, for my next level of wealth, for my next level of peace, for my next level of power, for my next level. All right. So again, wellness for us, everyone, isn't about escaping responsibility. It's about designing our energy around what truly matters. Okay. So this next portion I want to get into is integration versus compartmentalization. Y'all know I love me some integration. Integration is greater than compartmentalization. And this is so near and dear to me because it's one of the reasons why I quit every job I had. I'm not encouraging everyone to just up and quit, but I quit every job I had with absolutely nothing lined up. And it was mainly because, in a lot of ways, we've been taught to separate who we are at work from who we are at home. And yeah, that's a real thing. We have been taught to separate who we are at work with who we are at home. And crazy enough, this is actually where our divine originality shines through, because we're giving the wholeness of ourselves, not fragments, right? And it's very, very important that we understand how this phenomena affects us. And I'm being really transparent, family. I'm not just sharing from theory. I'm sharing from lived wisdom, right? And I've had quite a few corporate jobs where I had to split my identities and it just didn't feel good. So let's get into integration because it is the new currency. I want to say that again. Integration is the new currency of leadership, not just any leadership, fam, sustainable leadership. So we've been conditioned to compartmentalize, again, who we are at work from who we are at home, from who we are in our spiritual lives. And I can absolutely attest to someone who has a corporate background, a wellness background, and a temple leader. All of those people, all of those versions of myself are supposed to be different. No. So again, compartmentalizing who we are at work, who we are at home, who we are in our spiritual lives and our spiritual community, who you are with your clients, and who you are with yourself. That's like 5 different personalities. What? Keeping it separate? Talk about dissociative personality disorder, okay? No. And I'll be honest, that fragmentation of myself was exhausting. I'm not here for it. And so sometimes you spend more energy performing different versions of yourself than actually living your truth. I want to say that again. Some of us are spending more time performing different versions of ourselves than actually living our truth. That is exhausting. and it really messes with the nervous system. And so, again, I remember being in the world of advertising. I had a corporate job. I don't want to say the name, but I was a marketing consultant, and I was consulting over like 70 businesses at the time, right? And I loved the creative process. But while I was doing that, I was also community farming, right? And, harvesting from the farm. So, and also doing certain kind of energetic interpretation sessions, I'll say, for the purpose of this channel, right? All kinds of healing work behind the scenes. And it got to a point where I was just like, this is exhausting. And so while at work, I'm also advertising the fact that I have a farm to table offer of smoothies. This is around the time I also started my catering company, and I started bringing organic smoothies to my corporate job because I was taking orders, right? And so it was a mixture of me being in this corporate setting, but also digging into my entrepreneurship, and then also being proud of some of the ingredients in the smoothie I just harvested from the farm, to being this wellness practitioner. And yeah, I just got tired of hiding myself in every space that I entered. And this works in both realms, right? This is a real testimony, y'all. I don't want to get too personal, too deep, but I got to tell it how it is. I have to tell it how it is, okay? So this isn't just corporate. In certain wellness or spiritual communities, right, one can be too strategic or too focused on business or abundance in the term of finance, because let's be real, it takes money to purchase certain things. I don't know any utility, and I say this all the time, I don't know any utility companies, any realtors, that accept bartering or energy sessions or organic smoothies or your products for payment. Okay, I don't know a one. Now, if you're living off grid, that's a total different thing. But in certain wellness and spiritual spaces, I was considered a little bit too strategic and a little bit abundance focused, right? I also was determined to not be a poor righteous teacher or one of the many beautiful medicine men and women that's existed on the planet. And and although they were able to pass down beautiful teachings and wisdom, there was no tangible wealth, passing down land, passing down houses to the next generations of healers and wellness workers. I didn't want to be one of those, right? So that part of me was very much integrated into this other part of myself, right? Now, in corporate spaces, I could be a little bit too spiritual, a little bit too organic, a little bit too, but even in these corporate spaces, I'm witnessing managers and other team leads and employees burning out and not performing to their highest ability because their wellness was not considered. So in every space, I was not enough. I was not enough of something or too much of something else. Now, I'm sure I'm not the only one that can relate to this, right? So I no longer was interested in allowing that kind of fragmentation to tear apart my nervous system. And it nearly did. Okay. It's one of the reasons why I quit that last and final job and was just like, after I experienced this wellness retreat, I'm getting into my wellness. It was the most whole and fulfilled I've ever felt in my life. And I eventually made a non-negotiable decision. I will no longer be in rooms that require me to separate from myself. I will say that again. I will no longer be in rooms that require me to separate from myself. If the room that I'm invited in isn't going to allow me or isn't open to me being whole, it's not my room. And I have to be okay with that decision. I am okay with that decision. And it was that decision that birthed the Vision Catalyst, the Visionary Wellness Co. Okay. Because I knew that there had to be a space where Tantra and team building can coexist, where energy work or Reiki and revenue strategy weren't enemies. Okay. where my integration, my sacred integration, wasn't punished. It was looked at as something powerful, something useful. All right. And so that's what integrated leadership looks like for me. Now, what does that look like for you? Okay, let's get specific. So, what if your leadership style included that availability, that emotional? And when I say emotional, I'm not just talking about feelings, I'm talking about energy in motion, right? And there's this myth that emotion is weakness in business, and it's not necessarily true. There's this beautiful book, and I'm not going to show it because they're going to have to partner with me, but I will tell you the name. It's called 12 and a half, Leveraging the Emotional Ingredients Necessary for Business Success. And it talks about the value of emotional intelligence in leadership. Okay. And I found this book very, very, very useful for me because emotional intelligence, emotional availability, it creates loyalty, it creates trust, it creates longevity. Okay. And it's not about crying in every meeting or just blurting out or splurging like all of the things going wrong in your life, right? But it's about showing presence. It's about leading with empathy, okay? And that's power, all right? And again, I'll put the link in my bio if you all want to get the book, all right? So another thing that I want to talk about is what if your meetings, what if your business meetings, your corporate meetings, whatever kind of meetings you have for your organization, community, whatever, what if it was built around wellness windows, right? What if it was built around wellness windows? And I want to kind of express what that looks like. It could look like a 5-minute centering breath before and after your meeting. So even before I do my videos, I take a minute to center myself. And even afterwards, right? I take a minute to center, ground. Before meetings too, not just recording content, but before meetings, before and after I center, right? Even during, I may have all of us center into the meeting for us to be focused on the agenda, for this meeting to be impactful for everyone, to get everyone in the space of presence, right? So even with your meeting, starting with a personal check-in, not just the agenda, but checking in, right? That's that empathy. That's that emotional awareness, that emotional intelligence, because we're working with humans, not machines. Okay. We're all out here having a human experience. And also, like, I really have a beautiful respect, a newfound respect for time. The older I'm getting, the more wiser and mature I'm getting. I'm having more of an expanded respect for time. So starting on time, because it's respecting my time and other people's time. And I'm really honoring people who respect my time by showing up on time, right? And of course, if there's going to be changes, just the courtesy of letting people know. But also when it comes to meeting, sometimes just choosing to end them a little early to allow the team to recalibrate and not rush into their next thing, right? Because if they blocked out this time for this meeting, ending right at when we're supposed to end, okay, cool. Don't really give enough time to integrate or process. They just got to hop into the next thing. But no, I may end it a little earlier so that you can recalibrate instead of rushing. All right. So again, y'all, this isn't about fluff. This is nervous system leadership. All right. So what if your partner, your team, and your nervous system all felt seen? And I want to give you a real example. So I had a client. Well, this is the same woman who scaled into her international brand. And not only was she working with me in regards to consulting for her business, which, by the way, I went out to the country she now has her business in, which is Kenya. Went out there twice, all expenses paid. I'm so grateful for that. And we'll talk about honoring and knowing your value too in another video, because I don't say that to brag. I say that as encouragement. I say that as motivation and inspiration when it comes to really knowing your value. So The same woman who expanded her international brand, again, she not only was working with me on a consultant level as far as her business, but again, knowing my background in a lot of wellness practices, she also started getting energetic alignment sessions to move through certain energy blocks that were keeping her stuck in fear and mistrust. Okay? Because fear and mistrust can hinder you from scaling your business because you will not be open to opportunities or people that is coming to you and saying, I can help you with this. And I'm excited to help you with this because I have the same vision. I just understand my role in it. Okay. And so these shifts were real. They were so real for her that now the team that she started hiring on, she sent them to me, right, to get sessions as well. Okay. Because she really understood my favorite motto: when we heal together, we can build together. And for me, before I even knew what corporate wellness meant, before I even understood what that notion was, for me, this is how I initiated my own form of corporate wellness, because it was very personal for me. It wasn't just a buzzword. It was a lived ecosystem, because I witnessed how this woman went from a partnership that broke down and it got a little ugly, okay, some legal stuff, to entrepreneurship, right, to going through her healing journey, and now aligning with and attracting a team, because now she's no longer in fear of expanding. She's no longer mistrusting, but guess what? Now she wants to work with a team who is well like her, because guess what? A team that's well increases productivity. It increases creativity. It increases sustainability. So now her team is coming to me for all these different wellness sessions. And yes, created a beautiful ecosystem to where now her business is she's living overseas. All right. So again, y'all, I want to be clear. This is not about work-life balance. This is about wholeness. This is about integration, because integration isn't about doing everything perfectly. It's about not abandoning any part of who you are in order to succeed. I want to say this again. Integration is not about doing everything perfectly. It's about not abandoning any part of who you are to succeed. I'm going to sip on that. And so I'll say, when I started leading from integration versus separation, I personally noticed within myself, I had more energy, I had more clarity, and I had more impact. Not because I was doing more, but because I was more of myself in every room that I entered. And that changed everything. So the first mastermind that I was hired for was because of another business owner, another international business owner. And he's a man, who was experiencing something similar, certain blockages in his efforts for international business, right? And in our session, there was blocks in his body, blocks in his energy field, and witnessing after that session how things really cleared up for him mentally, emotionally, spiritually, even in the physical world, right? And I was referred by him to this mastermind full of business owners, beautiful business owners. And my contribution was not only, the business aspect, the creative consulting. I also do trust education, but I'm coming in every day and we're going to do visualization exercise, or we're going to do some qigong, or we're going to sip on some ceremonial cacao and discuss things. There's some kind of wellness component that is introduced into this mastermind, and nothing but great feedback, nothing but great results. Okay. And from that mastermind, I ended up getting hired into another mastermind as a coach. Okay. Not just in the corporate stuff that I offer as far as creative consulting and trust education, but also wellness. Okay. It all goes together. So at first, was I in fear of, are people going to think I'm weird? People going to think I'm too woo? Absolutely. But then you know what? My wellness was way more important than other people's opinions. And so when I started operating from wholeness, the people who were supposed to find me found me. All right. So I hope that is a jewel for you. So power practices, y'all. All right. Let's get into it. I want to end y'all up. I want to end y'all in this off, in this with something tangible. Okay. You could walk away with. So now we're landing this plane. Okay. With precision, with some clarity. And so I really want to get into these power practices. So let's bring it home. As a reminder, you do not integrate your leadership by just thinking about it. Okay. You embody it by designing your day with intention. I want to say that again. You do not integrate your leadership by just thinking about it or talking about it. You embody it by designing your day with intention. Alignment isn't an idea. Alignment in many ways is discipline. It's discipline to make your yeses and your nos just as sacred as anything else. Okay. Even though this may seem like a great opportunity over here, but is it in alignment with your path and your goal and what you're doing? So there has to be discipline with alignment. Okay. And so moving from inspiration to implementation, I want to talk about the first practice. Okay. And it's a way to bring this into your body and your business at the same time. So before any meeting, before any group meeting, before any one-on-one call, all right, you're going to take 1 to 2 minutes. You're going to pause and breathe and just ask, what is your intention for this meeting? What is your intention for this one-on-one call? You're going to ask yourself, how do you want to show up in this space? Because you do have options. Okay. You want to ask yourself or become aware of what energy you are carrying with you, in you, and what energy do you want to leave behind? In essence, what is the impact that you want to have? All right. When people walk away from you, when you walk away, when the meeting ends, what is the impact? And then after you have your meeting, after you have your one-on-one call, it's not about just shutting off your computer, logging off and moving on. It's really checking in with how you're doing in that moment, right? Just breathing out the energy, checking in to your body and releasing any tension that may have been picked up. Depending on how in tune you are, with yourself and others, you will pick up energy, right? So you want to give yourself time to release that, to get back to you. And I can say for me, this really reduced my anxiety. I used to have anxiety. It may not have looked like it, but I've had anxiety showing up to meetings, showing up to one-on-one sessions, showing up to workshops and seminars, right? But, doing those practices, it reduced my anxiety because I was clear on my intention. I wasn't fragmented, meaning I could just drift anywhere. And then in the call or the workshop or the session or the meeting and like, what just happened, right? And then leaving everybody else confused. So again, it reduced my anxiety. It sharpened my communication. And it helped me show up in presence, not just performing. Okay, because there is a difference and people can tell. All right. The second thing I want to talk to you about is what I call the throne ritual or the throne practice or the command chair, right? So you can take somewhere in your house, somewhere in your office, wherever, it's a seat, right? Or a space, whichever works best for you. It could be a chair, a cushion, a corner in a window. And claim it as like your command throne, your command chair. You could decorate it, whatever feels good to you. Okay. And it's not about, let me be clear. You don't sit in this chair and sit there and scroll and multitask because that's going to mess up the purpose. It's going to mess up the intention of this command chair that you're imprinting. Okay. This is where you recalibrate your mind. This is where you go to receive your strategy downloads. This is where you really reconnect with your inner authority. All right. You can light a candle, play an instrument, whatever does it for you. Bring your journal, whatever works for you. Just find your rhythm and stick to it. And I want you, just like you have a corporate boardroom or a business boardroom, and it doesn't have to be a literal boardroom, it can be your home office, whatever. You need your own spiritual boardroom, your own energetic boardroom as well, okay? When I sit in my space, and I have quite a few, okay? I have quite a few of them. For different reasons, for different things. One, I may strategize. One is to receive downloads. Again, I found my rhythm. I want to encourage you to find yours. In this practice, I've made some of the best, clearest decisions ever, not just for myself, but for my clients, for business direction, and even healing relationships, okay? Friendships, personal partnerships, family, all the things. And it's because I really wasn't moving from pressure or performance. It's all about what? It's all about what, y'all? Presence. Moving from that space. The third practice I'm going to share, calendar integration. Now, I personally had to make, because I had a horrible experience with scheduling, so I married my calendar. My calendar is my husband. Okay, well, I don't want to go too deep, but I had it treated like my husband. Like, I'm checking in with babe, checking in with hubby, make sure that, I can show up for whatever it is I'm about to commit to. So one personal ritual to do for with your business calendar each week. It's not so much self-care, but it's like your sacred prep. Okay. Your powerful prep. Okay. Leadership prep. And so this could be a 30-minute walk. Okay. But it's a walk-in vision session after a client's call. Because here's what I find too, as a visionary, even when I'm done with the client call, I just can't shut off as a visionary. The visions start visioning, right? And it's like, I still need to process and get that out and seek more clarity. I even sometimes integrate after someone else's business call. Okay. Another thing is a blocked hour every Friday or whatever day works for you, to reflect, realign, and journal lessons of the week. Now, for me, those reflective days are Saturday. I reflect on Saturday. Saturday is my rest day. Okay. Saturday is reflection day for me. And then I don't know if I forgot that one TV show where she had all these sticky notes on the wall, but just writing yourself reminders in random places to pause, to delegate, to breathe. You're not alone. I used to have to write, before I would record certain things, don't talk too fast, slow your pace, right? And because I did those practices, when I start to do that, my body then signals, as we experienced earlier, hey, slow down, take a breath, pause, give them time to receive. You know what you're talking about, but they may need time to process, right? So these are some of the small changes that I've used. Again, they're small, but they transformed how I lead in my body and how I lead in my brand. All right. So again, when I integrated these rhythms, y'all, I noticed less reactivity, but more energy of responding. Okay. Clearer speech, more authority, more compassion, not just for others, but for my own self. Okay. And communication that actually lands, and not just speaking just to be heard, not just speaking to get a point across, speaking to have an impact. Okay. So again, when we're able to lead from a healthy nervous system, not just your notes, you feel the difference, and so do the people you're interacting with. All right. So again, I really noticed the difference between being heard and being understood. It's a big difference, very big difference. So again, I thank y'all for tuning in, and I really want to leave you with this. Okay. You are already a leader. You're the leader of your own life. No matter how good or not so good you feel like you've been doing, I want you to recognize you are a leader already. Okay. In your business, in your family, community, whatever, you are a leader already. But imagine What would shift if you started trusting your own leadership as much as your audience, as much as your clients, as much as your loved ones already do? And again, this is for the people who are the go-to person, the people who rely on you and you're the default person. What would happen if you started to trust your leadership just as much as they do? Okay. And remembering, you don't have to choose between high performance and high presence, because when you lead from your power, not just your pressure, you're already going to lead in that essence, in that presence. All right. So again, if you have not taken the visionary archetype test, please click the link below and discover which leadership energy you are carrying the most and where your wellness patterns may be silently shaping your business. Okay. Also, if you have not already, I want you to subscribe and share this with leaders in your life who are also known as the strong ones, but they're rarely supported. All right. Lastly, leadership is not a title. It's really it's an essence. It's a rhythm. And so I hope this video has helped you redesign yours in some way, shape, fashion, or form from the inside out. All right. So thank you for tuning in, and until next time.